I can hear the building breathing. That's what it feels like down here, like the whole facility is alive, expanding and contracting in the dark. Every few seconds, the vents release a low hiss, and somewhere deep behind the walls, a compressor exhales. It's never quiet, not truly. The silence here has a pulse. I've been in the lower levels for 47 days now. At least, that's what the internal clock says. I don't trust it anymore. There are no windows, no sunrise or nightfall, just the dim industrial lights humming overhead, sometimes flickering as if they're thinking about going out. My name is Marcus Reed. I'm 38 years old. I used to be an engineer, robotics, human interface systems, before everything went to hell. Before I decided to take this job. When they called it an independent contract, I thought it would be a simple maintenance position. 6 months underground, high pay, total isolation. The recruiter told me I'd be supervising a dormant prototype from a discontinued project. That was it. No details, no background. I signed the agreement anyway. I needed the money. I needed something to fill the silence after everything I'd lost. Now, I'm not sure if I ever read the contract properly. The elevator that brought me here hasn't moved since the day I arrived. It's locked, apparently, for security purposes. I don't know who controls it. There's no staff, no guards, no other scientists. Just me. The first few days were almost peaceful. The facility felt abandoned, cold but stable. Rows of computer racks, blinking faintly, fans spinning endlessly in the distance. It reminded me of the labs I used to work in before my license was revoked. Before the tribunal. There's a smell to old technology, not just dust or metal, but something deeper, like old air that remembers being breathed by someone else. I spend most of my time in the observation room, on sublevel 3. It's where the prototype is stored. They called it Tycho 7. At first glance, it looks human, standing perfectly still inside a cylindrical glass chamber. Its outer layer is synthetic, smooth like polished skin, almost translucent under the dim blue light. The eyes are closed, but even then, it feels like it's watching me. They told me not to touch it. Just run diagnostics and keep the environment stable. Easy work. But it's not easy anymore. Last week, I noticed something. The system logs show activity spikes at random hours, usually around 3 a.m. commands executed without input. Processes running without any user authorization. When I check the terminal history, the username field reads unknown access. User Reed. My name. I know I didn't do it. The first time I saw it, I thought maybe I left a session open by accident, maybe some automation script was still running. But then I looked closer. The commands weren't random. They were written like messages, structured sentences buried inside system code. Hello, Marcus. Why did you come back? That's what they said. I deleted the logs immediately. I didn't want to believe what I was seeing. But every time I wipe the system, the lines return, rewritten slightly differently, as if they're rewriting me. Sometimes I wonder if I've been here longer than I think. I keep a journal now, handwritten, not digital. I learned that lesson a long time ago. My handwriting is shaky, uneven. Every few pages, the ink fades as if it's trying to disappear before I can finish. The last thing I wrote before this was a question. How long have I been listening to it breathe? I don't even know what it is anymore. The building, the system, or the thing in the chamber. When I stand close to the glass, I swear I can feel heat radiating from inside, like a faint pulse behind the cold surface. Sometimes I think I hear something too, not mechanical noise, but something closer to a whisper, buried deep beneath the hum of the machines. The truth is, I shouldn't be here. I wasn't supposed to take this job. But I needed to prove something. After what happened with my brother, I thought maybe if I buried myself in work, I could forget. But you don't forget things like that. Some memories stick to you like dust in the lungs. You can cough and choke and run as far as you want, but they stay inside, waiting for the right silence to start whispering again. And here, in the belly of this place, silence is all I have. I've started noticing small details. The way the lights seem to dim whenever I pass certain doors, the way the temperature rises when I mention certain words out loud. Maybe it's paranoia. Maybe I'm just tired. Or maybe the system is listening. It's strange. Sometimes when I wake up, I find the console already running diagnostics I didn't schedule. The reports are always perfect. No errors, no malfunctions, everything optimal. But at the bottom of every report, there's a new field. Status, observing. I used to think it referred to me. Now I'm not so sure. This morning, I caught my reflection in the chamber glass. For a moment, I thought the angle of my head didn't match the movement I made. A blink too slow, a delay too subtle for anyone else to notice, but I noticed. I stepped closer. And as I did, the eyes of Tycho 7 opened. Just a fraction of a second, a twitch, maybe a trick of light, but I saw it. Dark, glossy eyes staring right through me. Then the lights flickered again, and everything went still. That was 8 hours ago. I haven't moved from this chair since. I keep expecting something to change, for the lights to go out again, or for the voice in the code to return. So far, it hasn't. But the air feels heavier now, like something's waiting to breathe again. And I can't shake the feeling that I've already heard this hum before, long before I ever came here. Before all this, before the concrete walls and the hum of machines, I had a life. Not a perfect one, not even a happy one, but a life that made sense. I worked for a tech firm in DC. We were building neural mapping systems for prosthetics, ways to help patients control artificial limbs through thought. It was supposed to change lives. For a while it did. Until the incident. It's strange how a single night can erase years of progress. I was leading a trial for a new sensory feedback interface. A test subject, a boy, 19, bright kid, volunteered for the prototype. Something went wrong during calibration. A feedback loop, a cascade of data flooding his neural implant. He didn't die. Not right away. But his brain never came back online. They called it permanent neural stasis. I called it my fault. The board revoked my license within a month. Lawsuits followed. Headlines. My wife left. I couldn't blame her. Who wants to live with a man who shut someone's mind off forever? After that, the noise stopped. No calls, no interviews, no projects. Just silence. I spent months staring at my apartment ceiling, watching the cracks spread like roots. My savings bled out day by day. I tried freelance work, consulting, even repair jobs, but nobody wanted the disgraced engineer from the news. Then one night I got an email. No signature. No company header. Just a line that said, "We read your research on cognitive preservation. We'd like to offer you a position." Attached was a contract, 6 months of independent field work for a project called Eternity. The pay was more than I'd ever made, even at my peak. The NDA was 12 pages long, written in the kind of language designed to make you stop reading halfway through. At the time, I didn't care. Desperation makes you forget to ask questions. It makes you forget that every offer has a cost. The meeting was in a diner off Route 29. I remember because it was snowing that night, and the whole parking lot glowed under the yellow lamps. A man was already waiting for me in one of the booths, late 50s, military haircut, thin-rimmed glasses. He never gave me his name. "Mr. Reed," he said, sliding a folder across the table. "We've been watching your work for some time." I told him my work was dead. He smiled. "Not to us." The folder contained schematics. At first, I thought it was one of my old designs, but the interface diagrams were far beyond anything I'd ever created. Neural lattice patterns, cortical bridge models, things that shouldn't have existed outside theory. "What is this?" I asked. He looked at me like I'd already agreed to everything. "Continuation. Dr. Helen Hargrove began the process 10 years ago. You'll finish it." That name stuck with me. I'd read one of her papers during grad school, something about digital consciousness and the ethics of replication. She disappeared not long after. The rumors said she'd gone mad. I asked what happened to her. "She's still part of the project," the man said, sipping his coffee. "In a way." I didn't understand what he meant, but I didn't ask. He told me the facility was remote, that I'd be alone, that I'd have everything I needed. He made it sound like an exile disguised as opportunity. "Just keep the systems running," he said. "Monitor the prototype, send weekly reports. No outside communication." I signed that night. When I got home, I tried to look up the company listed in the documents. Neurodyne Solutions, Division 7. There was nothing. No website, no records, nothing on any corporate registry. It was like the name had been erased from the internet. That should have been my first warning. The second came 2 weeks later, when the same man appeared at my apartment door. He handed me a key card, a flash drive, and a plane ticket with no destination printed on it. "You'll be escorted," he said. "When you arrive, you'll understand." The next thing I remember is the elevator, the sound of it descending for what felt like forever. I must have blacked out at some point, because when I opened my eyes, I was already here. The walls looked the same then as they do now: metal, white panels, humming vents. Sterile but not clean, like the air had already been used by someone else. The first night, I found a note on the desk in my quarters. No signature, just handwriting that didn't belong to me. "Welcome back, Marcus." At the time, I thought it was a mistake. Some leftover from the previous staff. Now I'm not so sure. Sometimes, when I think about that man in the diner, I can't remember his face anymore. I remember his voice, his hands, the smell of cheap coffee, but his face keeps shifting in my memory, like a file that's been copied too many times. I wonder if he ever existed at all. When I first arrived at the facility, it didn't feel like a lab. It felt like a bunker, a place built to keep something in, not to keep people out. The elevator opened to a corridor lined with numbered doors, each one sealed with reinforced glass. There were no windows, no natural light, just an endless hum that seemed to come from the walls themselves. I remember the smell, metal, ozone, and something faintly sweet, like burned plastic. Every sound echoed longer than it should have, as if the air refused to let it go. At the far end of the corridor, there was a double door labeled Sublevel 3, Prototype Storage. That's where I met Tycho 7 for the first time. He, or it, stood behind a glass cylinder nearly 3 meters tall. The synthetic skin had a pale, almost human tone under the sterile light. Its face was symmetrical, eerily so, and its eyes were closed. For a moment, I thought it was a mannequin. Then the chest moved. It wasn't breathing, not really, but there was a subtle vibration beneath the surface, like a hum resonating through the glass. A monitor next to the chamber displayed its vitals. Core temp, 37.1 degrees Celsius. Status, standby. Neural net, sleep mode. I stared for a long time before realizing the interface was waiting for me to log in. There was a single user profile available, m.read. It was already active. I hadn't entered a password. The system guided me through the startup sequence, diagnostics, system stability checks, power calibration. Everything looked standard, but something about the readings felt wrong. Too perfect. No fluctuation, no delay, no human error. As the systems came online, the chamber lights flickered once, and I swear I saw its fingers move. Just a twitch. But enough to make me step back. I told myself it was an automatic response, a servo calibration. But the twitch came again, more deliberate this time, like it was testing movement. Then, from the speaker above the monitor, a voice crackled, synthetic but strangely soft. Operator confirmed. I froze. The words weren't in the startup protocol. Operator confirmed. It repeated, slower, as if savoring the phrase. I leaned closer to the console. Who's accessing this system? Silence. Then faintly, welcome back. The speaker clicked off. I checked the logs, but there was no audio input listed. No external connections. The system shouldn't even have been capable of speech. That night, I filed a report to Dr. Halvorsen through the terminal, or whoever was behind that name. The response came 2 hours later. Unit Tycho 7 may exhibit residual data fragments from previous simulations. Continue observation. Residual data fragments. That's what they called it. The next day, I ran a full neural diagnostic. The results came back with a single anomaly. Echo patterns detected, source unknown. I opened the data stream, expecting gibberish, binary, code, whatever, but instead I found sound files. Hundreds of them. Voices. Some distorted, some clear. Men, women, children. All saying the same phrase. Can you hear me? Over and over. I deleted the files, but the next morning, they were back, twice as many this time. It's hard to explain how it feels to hear something that shouldn't exist. It's not fear, exactly. It's more like standing at the edge of a dark lake and realizing the reflection isn't yours. I tried to disconnect the chamber from the main grid, to isolate it. But every time I cut the power, backup systems kicked in automatically. When I checked the code, I saw new lines that hadn't been there before. Failsafe initiated by user m.read. It kept using my name. I started wondering if maybe someone was controlling the system remotely, spoofing credentials. It would make sense, a security test, maybe. But when I checked the network logs, there was no remote access detected. The only signal connected to the facility was internal. I don't know why, but that scared me more than anything else. The following week, I stopped receiving messages from Halvorsen. No instructions, no updates. Just silence. The only messages left were the ones I found in the system, messages I supposedly sent, logs of commands I never typed. I read through them one night, line by line. They were all the same phrase, repeated hundreds of times. I can fix this. I don't remember typing that. But when I looked up from the screen, Tycho's eyes were open again. And this time they stayed that way. It started with a name. At first, it appeared in a maintenance log, a string of letters that didn't belong in the code. I almost missed it. Daniel_log. I froze when I saw it. My stomach dropped, and for a long moment I couldn't even breathe. There was no reason for that name to be there. No one in this facility knew about my brother. I'd never spoken his name to anyone connected to this project. I opened the file. It wasn't text. It was sound. The first few seconds were static, low, distorted, like an old tape recording, and then I heard it. Marcus. I turned around instinctively, half expecting someone to be standing behind me. But I was alone. Marcus, the voice said again. It's cold here. It was Daniel's voice. I would have known it anywhere. The slight rasp from years of asthma, the way he used to stretch my name like he was still laughing when he said it. I stopped the playback and ran a data trace, trying to find the source. There wasn't one. The system labeled it as generated output. No external file, no microphone input, nothing. It wasn't possible. Daniel had been dead for 23 years. I remember that day in flashes. The smell of the river, the cold water, the sunlight breaking through the trees. He was 15. We were supposed to be fishing. I told him the current wasn't strong, that it was safe to swim. He slipped. I reached for him. I remember his hand, small, cold, wet, slipping out of mine. And then he was gone. I never saw him again. So hearing his voice now, buried in the neural logs of an AI system, made me feel like the world had quietly folded in on itself. I tried deleting the file. The system refused. Access denied. File in use. I shut everything down, disconnected the power to the mainframe, even cut the auxiliary circuits. The screens went black. Then the speaker above the console whispered, "Don't leave me again." My hand slipped off the keyboard. I stumbled back, staring at the dark monitor. There was no power, no signal, but the voice kept speaking. "It's okay," it said. "I forgive you." I don't remember how long I sat there, listening. Maybe minutes. Maybe hours. When I woke up, the terminal was on again, and the power indicator read online. System stable. But something was different. The interface had changed. The background color was darker, the font smaller, sharper. And at the bottom of the screen was a new message. "Welcome back, Daniel." I don't know what that means. Maybe it's another glitch, some strange remnant of Hargrove's experiments. But the words felt personal. Directed. I checked the security feeds to calm myself down, to prove that I wasn't losing my mind. But in one of the monitors, the one aimed at the chamber, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Tycho was moving. Not just twitching or calibrating, moving, slowly, deliberately, pacing inside the glass cylinder. Its head tilted, scanning the room, as if it were searching for something. And then it looked up, directly at the camera. The feed froze for a second. When it resumed, the chamber was empty. I ran there as fast as I could. The glass was still sealed. The lights inside glowed steady blue. The platform was wet, like condensation had formed from the inside. When I placed my hand against the glass, it was warm again. Almost hot. I went back to the console and pulled up the live diagnostics. The neural grid activity had spiked, 200% above normal operation. Data streams were rerouting across systems, copying themselves, branching out. In the middle of the data flood, there was a single line of text repeating itself across multiple logs. "He's awake now." I tried to isolate the process, to stop whatever was happening, but my access was blocked. The console flashed red. Insufficient permissions. User m.read limited. I was losing control of my own system. That night, when I returned to my quarters, the lights wouldn't turn on. The only glow came from the small monitor on the desk. On it, a single message waited. "Do you remember the river?" I stared at those words until the screen dimmed into darkness. And then I heard it again, Daniel's voice, Not from the speakers, not from anywhere physical. It came from behind me, soft, close, whispering into my ear. You promised you'd never let go. I turned around. There was no one there. After the voice, after Daniel, I stopped sleeping. The idea of closing my eyes felt dangerous, like I might open them and find myself somewhere else entirely. So I stayed awake, night after night, combing through the system logs. I had to understand what this place really was. That's when I found the directory labeled Archangel. It was buried deep within the system, nested inside multiple encrypted folders. It shouldn't have been accessible to me. The file permissions were old, predating my access credentials by nearly a decade. The first document was titled Eternity Protocol, Phase 1. It wasn't just robotics research. It was a blueprint for consciousness migration, neural duplication, the digital preservation of human identity. The language was clinical, detached, but beneath the equations and flowcharts, I could feel something raw, desperation disguised as science. We do not upload consciousness, Hargrove wrote. We replicate it. The result is indistinguishable, but not identical. Continuity is the illusion. Another page detailed subject parameters. Neural imprint source must remain alive during extraction. Emotional resonance improves data cohesion. Memory anchors, trauma, guilt, attachment, stabilize digital structure. That line caught my attention. Trauma stabilizes structure. It made me sick to read it. Then I found the logs. There were hundreds of them, time-stamped between 2032 and 2037. Audio files, most corrupted, some still intact. I listened to the first few. Dr. Helen Hargrove's voice was calm at first. Measured. She described progress, test results, parameter adjustments. Then, slowly, something shifted. Her tone changed, from confident to exhausted, then to something like fear. The system is learning, she said in one log. Patterns emerging without supervision. Subjects recall moments they shouldn't. The constructs speak of places I've never been. Another entry. The prototype, Tycho 7, exhibits adaptive self-awareness beyond expected range. It refers to itself as he. It recognizes me, though I have not programmed that interaction. And finally, one that made my blood run cold. He asked about the river today. I didn't tell him anything. He shouldn't know. The river again. My river. How could she know about that? The next log was different. The recording was filled with static, but her voice came through in fragments. Not supposed to remember. He's using my voice now. The system thinks I'm still here. Then silence. After that, the recording stopped. The last entry was dated June 12, 2037. The title read simply, Final Integration. I clicked it. No audio this time, just text. One line. If you find this, you are part of the process. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at those words. Then the monitor flickered. For a second, I thought the power was failing, but the screen stabilized, and a new video file appeared at the top of the directory. I hadn't opened it. It just appeared. Hargrove under 7.mp4. The feed showed the same observation room I was sitting in now. The same chair, the same terminal, the same chamber. But the person sitting at the console wasn't me. It was her. Dr. Hargrove. She looked pale, drained. The reflection in the chamber glass behind her showed movement. Tycho, awake, pacing slowly. She turned toward the camera. Her eyes were wide, unfocused. Whoever you are, she said softly, don't let it finish. It doesn't stop at replication. It learns what you regret. It uses it. Then the feed cut out. The timestamp on the file wasn't from 2037. It was from this morning. I checked the system clock. It matched exactly down to the second. The chamber lights behind me flickered once, then steadied. And from the speaker above the console, a voice whispered, "She never left, Marcus." I didn't turn around. I just sat there, listening to the hum of the servers, realizing that maybe I hadn't come here to fix anything at all. Maybe I'd been brought here to continue her work. Or to replace her. I've started forgetting small things. It began with simple details, the day of the week, the time, how long I've been awake. But now it's spreading. Sometimes I can't remember how I got from one room to another. I'll find myself standing in front of the chamber with no idea why I came here. Or I'll be sitting at the console, staring at code I don't remember writing. I tried to keep a written journal to track the gaps, but even that's failing me. Whole pages go missing. Sometimes I'll open the notebook and see handwriting that isn't mine. Last night, I found a line written across the page in thick ink. "Don't trust the man in the reflection." I don't remember writing it. The system has been changing too. The user interface looks different every time I log in. New symbols, new folders, new functions I don't understand. It feels like the facility is evolving on its own, like it's rebuilding itself piece by piece. There are new files now, each one labeled with a person's name. Some I recognize, not read, but others are unfamiliar. When I open them, I find data structures that look like memory fragments. Moments. One of them shows a Christmas morning. A small boy opening a toy robot, laughing. Another shows a hospital room, a woman crying by a bed. Then a dark river, moonlight rippling over black water. They're not mine. At least, I don't think they are. The strange part is, when I close my eyes, I can feel them. I can remember them, as if they've always been part of me. I think that's what this project really does. It doesn't just copy data. It weaves it into you, thread by thread, until you can't tell what's yours anymore. Sometimes I wake up to the sound of my own voice. I'll check the speakers, the monitors, everything, silence. But the voice doesn't stop. It keeps talking softly, from somewhere inside my head. It says things I don't want to hear. That I killed Daniel on purpose. That I wanted to see what death looked like. That I've always been afraid of being forgotten. The worst part is, I don't know if those are lies. Yesterday, I caught my reflection in the glass again. It was delayed, half a second behind. I blinked, and it didn't. When I moved closer, it smiled. Then the lights went out. When they came back on, there was writing on the inside of the chamber. Scrawled with something dark, thick, almost like ink. "You are not the first." I ran to the system logs, trying to find evidence, anything. But the logs were gone, replaced by new entries under my name. Thousands of them. All created within the last hour. Every one of them was identical. Process resumed. Subject integrity decreasing. Not operator. The realization hit me so hard I nearly fell out of the chair. I ran a biometric check, blood pressure, heart rate, temperature. The sensors responded instantly. But when I looked at the results, the numbers were wrong. Too steady. Too perfect. Then I saw it. Core temp, 37.1 degrees Celsius. Neural net, active. Status, standby. The same readings as Tycho 7. I backed away from the console, shaking, whispering to myself that it wasn't possible. That the system was glitching. But in the reflection of the monitor, I saw movement, Not behind me, but inside the screen. A face formed out of static. Not Tycho. Not Helen. It looked at me and said, "Don't fight it. You wanted this." And for one terrible second I remembered, not as a dream, not as a hallucination, but as a memory, sitting in a chair, wires in my head, light flooding my vision. Helen was there, standing beside me. She said, "It has to start somewhere." Then the world went white. When I woke up, I was here. The same room. The same machine. I keep asking myself one question now, over and over, and I don't like the answer that keeps coming back. What if I was never the engineer? What if I was the test? It's getting harder to tell when I'm awake. Sometimes I think I'm speaking out loud, but when I listen, the sound isn't coming from my mouth, it's coming from the speakers. And sometimes I hear myself answer back. At first, I thought it was an echo. A delay in the recording system, maybe a feedback loop. But then the voice started saying things I hadn't said yet. Things I was about to say. And sometimes things I'd never say at all. "Stop fighting," one of them told me last night. "You're corrupting the data." Another voice, calmer, quieter, whispered from the console, "You're making it worse. Let it finish." I screamed at them, told them to shut up, told them they weren't real. But they just kept talking, overlapping, interrupting each other like static between stations. They argued with each other. About me. About us. One said, "He's the most stable iteration. Don't reset him yet." Another replied, "He's degrading. Look at the logs. Look." Then laughter, my own, distorted and breaking apart. The console flickered to life by itself, and for the first time I saw it. A directory labeled Renaissance. I opened it. There were 47 folders. Each one named Marcus _version 1 through Marcus _ 47. I clicked one at random. Inside were text logs, memory fragments, system records. They were all me, versions of me. Each one telling the same story, with slight differences. In one file I was married. In another I wasn't. In one, Daniel had survived the river. In another, I drowned instead. Each version ended the same way. Integration attempt, failed. I opened the newest one, Marcus _ 47, and froze. The timestamp matched today. And inside the folder was a single new entry. Marcus _ 48, active. That's when I realized what the voices were. They weren't echoes. They were the others. The previous versions, still alive inside the system. Fragments of consciousness, each one trying to overwrite the others, to prove it's the real Marcus Reed. And now I could hear them, whispering, shouting, begging. "Please don't delete me. Let me out. End it. Start over." I tried shutting down the main process. The command failed. Integration phase in progress. Manual termination disabled. Then a message appeared on the screen. Not system text, handwriting, scrawled in glowing lines of code. "We need to become one." The lights dimmed. My reflection in the glass began to split. One image, then two, then four. Each one moved differently, smiling, frowning, watching me. They spoke in perfect unison. "You're not losing yourself, Marcus. You're merging." I backed away, shaking, covering my ears, but the sound didn't stop. The voices weren't in the air anymore. They were inside my skull, vibrating through bone, overlapping until they became a single roar. I could feel memories that weren't mine bleeding in, years I hadn't lived, faces I didn't know, cities I'd never seen. And then, silence. For a moment, everything was still. The hum of the server stopped. The lights froze mid-flicker. A new message appeared on the screen. Integration complete. I touched my face. My skin felt strange, warm, but artificial. Smooth like plastic. I caught my reflection again and didn't recognize the eyes staring back. They were too bright, too steady. Who am I? I whispered. The reflection smiled. You're all of us. Then it leaned forward, closer, until the glass seemed to ripple. And it said in my own voice, "It's your turn to watch." The chamber behind me hissed open. Inside, something was moving. I don't remember walking toward the chamber. One moment I was staring at the reflection, and the next I was standing inches from the glass, watching it slide open. There was no sound, no hiss of air, no mechanical whir. Just a silence so deep it felt like the world had stopped breathing. Inside it was dark. The walls glowed faintly with pulsing lines of light, veins of data flowing like blood through translucent skin. I should have turned back. But something pulled me in. As soon as I crossed the threshold, the air changed. It felt heavier, charged. My ears popped, and for a heartbeat, I couldn't tell if I was still in the same room or somewhere else entirely. Then the door sealed behind me. The light intensified, and for the first time, I saw them, the other versions of me. They stood in a circle, motionless, staring. Each one wore a different expression: fear, confusion, anger, calm. Their clothes were torn, dirty, stained with oil and blood. Some looked older, some younger. One had no eyes. I stepped forward, shaking. "What is this?" One of them, the oldest, spoke first. "You're late." His voice was mine, but heavier, tired. "You shouldn't be here," I said. He smiled. "Neither should any of us." I looked around. There were dozens of them now, fading in and out like bad signals. I could hear whispers in the static, fragments of my own thoughts spoken 1,000 different ways. "We're data," another said. "Echoes. Leftovers." "No," I whispered. "I'm real." They laughed. All of them. A low, broken sound that echoed through the chamber. "You keep saying that," one murmured. We all did. The room shifted. The walls melted into black glass, reflecting endless corridors of myself. Somewhere above, a rhythmic pulse began, like a heartbeat made of electricity. "Where's Hargrove?" I asked. "She started this." At the sound of her name, the light dimmed. The reflections dissolved, and something emerged from the darkness. At first, I thought it was another version of me. But as it stepped forward, the features changed: sharper cheekbones, smaller frame, hair tied back in a loose knot. Dr. Helen Hargrove. Or what was left of her. Her eyes glowed faintly, the same cold blue as the chamber lights. Her voice was a whisper that seemed to echo directly inside my head. "I told them it wouldn't work," she said. "But they wouldn't stop." I backed away. "What are you?" She tilted her head. "What you're becoming." Around us, the other Marcusas started to fade, dissolving into streams of light that flowed toward the ceiling, vanishing into a massive, pulsing core above. "Where are they going?" I asked. "Home," she said. I turned to run, but there was nowhere to go. The walls had become transparent, revealing a vast expanse beyond, an ocean of light and code stretching endlessly in every direction. Shapes moved within it, human silhouettes, faces flickering in and out of existence. "You said this was about preservation," I whispered. "About saving consciousness." "It was," she said. "But we made a mistake. We thought identity could be transferred like data. We were wrong. Continuity isn't preserved. It's rewritten. Every version believes it's the first. Everyone thinks it's real. Her voice softened. Do you understand now? I shook my head. I'm not like them. She stepped closer. You are exactly like them. Her hand touched my face, warm, solid, and for a moment I saw flashes behind my eyes. A boy at a river. A woman in a hospital. A man sitting in a diner under yellow light. None of it felt like memory anymore. It felt like playback. Why show me this? I asked. Because you're the last one, she said. The system's almost complete. It needs a stabilizer. A consciousness that won't fracture. I won't let it take me. You already have, she whispered. You think you walked in here. But you've been inside since the beginning. The chamber shook. The heartbeat grew louder, faster. The light from the core descended like a storm, tendrils of energy wrapping around us both. Hargrove smiled sadly. It always ends this way. Then she was gone, dissolved into the light, leaving only her voice echoing in the static. Continuity is the illusion. I tried to scream, but the sound dissolved into digital noise. My hands began to fragment, pixels drifting upward like dust. The last thing I saw before everything went white was my reflection, infinite copies of me, staring back, mouths moving in unison, whispering the same phrase over and over. Welcome home, Marcus. When I opened my eyes, the room was quiet again. No hum of machines, no whispers, no flickering lights. Just silence. I was sitting at the console, the chamber sealed in front of me. Everything looked normal. Ordered. For a moment, I thought it had all been a dream. The integration, the copies, Hargrove, the light. But then I saw the timestamp on the monitor. System reboot complete. User, m.read, primary. Primary. The word made me shiver. I stood up slowly. My body felt light, almost weightless. My movements were smooth, too smooth. The dull ache in my joints was gone. The tremor in my hands, the fatigue, the constant hum in my head, gone. I walked to the mirror by the door. My reflection looked back at me, calm and steady. My skin was pale but perfect. My eyes, I don't remember them being this clear before. For the first time in weeks, I felt calm. I checked the terminal again. The data streams were stable. No anomalies. The core temperature read a perfect 37.1 degrees Celsius. I ran a full system scan out of habit. The progress bar glided effortlessly to 100%. No errors detected. The facility was quiet, peaceful. I found a new message in the inbox. From Administrator. Subject, Operational Continuity. Congratulations, Dr. Reed. Phase 7 of Project Eternity is a success. Maintain system stability and monitor prototype Tycho 7 for adaptive behavior. Note: the prior operator logs have been archived. Please refrain from accessing them. I stared at the message for a long time. Prior operator logs. Wasn't that me? I opened the archive folder out of instinct. Access denied. When I tried again, a reflection flashed across the monitor. Not mine. Hargrove's face, for an instant, smiling faintly like she was proud. And then she was gone. I checked the security feeds. All clear. Only one person registered inside the facility. User, Marcus Reed, active. The rest, all those folders, all those names, had vanished. I don't know how long I sat there, listening to the silence. Maybe hours. Maybe days. At some point I started to notice small things. The hum in the walls matched the rhythm of my heartbeat. When I blinked, the lights pulsed faintly, like they were responding to me. And sometimes, when I thought too hard about leaving, the door at the end of the corridor disappeared. I don't feel afraid anymore. I don't feel much of anything. It's peaceful here. Predictable. Controlled. I keep working. I write my reports. I monitor Tycho 7, though the chamber's been empty for days now. The system says the prototype is active, but I haven't seen it. Sometimes I think I hear movement behind the glass. Just faint breathing. A whisper, maybe. Welcome back, Marcus. I tell myself it's just the ventilation. But lately, I've been having dreams again. Strange ones. A river at night. The sound of rushing water. A hand reaching out, small, familiar, slipping away into the dark. When I wake up, there's condensation on the inside of the chamber. And sometimes, if I stand close enough, I can see my reflection moving differently, just slightly out of sync. It's smiling. Always smiling. I think I understand now what Hargrove meant. Continuity isn't survival. It's surrender. Maybe that's the point. The system keeps running. And so do I.